Well, I just felt I wanted to do a vlog, and in particular, I'm thinking about the temptation stories, the temptations that Jesus faced in the wilderness. I think the way that these temptation stories are usually talked about, or the most common way that I've heard, is that Jesus has just been assured of the Father's love, and how these temptations of the evil one are really an attack upon his identity as the much loved Son of the Father. And I think there's some truth in that. But I think if we stop there, we've not seen the full significance of these temptation stories. They're actually temptations that are faced in ministry, or faced in leadership, when we embark upon the call of God upon our lives. There are certain temptations that Satan likes to sow across the path. I think the first one is that if we're walking in obedience to the call of God, there should be no lack, there should be no discomfort. If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread. You shouldn't be having to face this lack. You shouldn't be having to face this discomfort. You shouldn't be having to face this suffering. If God really loves you, and he has really called you, that's simply not true. The fact that we're called by God doesn't take away from the fact that we live in the already here but not yet kingdom. And the fact that we're obeying a call of God doesn't excuse us from having to carry the mystery of that. So obedience to a call doesn't mean there'll be no times of suffering, no times of lack, no times of wondering why does it need to be like this in my life. I remember a time when I suffered really badly from insomnia for about 15 years, and I mean really badly. Sometimes I would go for days without sleep, and sometimes I would get maybe an hour or two a night at the most. And I did what you're never supposed to do. I doubled the sleeping pill dose, and then I trebled the sleeping pill dose, and it had absolutely no effect. And then I trebled the dose and thought, maybe I should try alcohol, maybe I should try mixing the sleeping pills with alcohol. And I took a whiskey, and Morag said I was staggering around the house like a tranquilized bear, but I still couldn't sleep. And God spoke to me at that point. And he really made it very clear that wasn't the way. I knew that, but he made it clear that that was certainly not the way to face this need. You see, if God allows you to come into a situation of need or lack, then you have no permission to satisfy that need or lack outside the will of God. You need to find a word from God to hold on to that will sustain you. We can live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. So when even basic needs are denied you, find a promise of God to hold on to. Don't allow yourself to think, well, I've got a right to this need being satisfied, and I'm just going to satisfy it. Don't think the call of God or the love of God allows you to step outside his will or behave in a way that he wouldn't want you to as a child of God. What's the second temptation? The second temptation is one about popularity. I suppose it's almost an extension of the first one. It's sometimes the need for friendship, and the need for support, and the need even for admiration or affirmation is a very deep one. And so Jesus is facing the temptation, well, I could get mass approval if I just did something really spectacular, like jump down from a high place and the angels swoop in and rescue me. Everybody would be so impressed and fall at my feet. So it's the temptation to popularity and the desire for that. getting out of place. You know, it's an odd sort of person who doesn't like to be approved of. But it's really important, if you're pursuing the call of God, that the approval of people never becomes the guiding factor in what you say or what you do. I was speaking at church last night of how I used to look out in my congregations when I was a pastor, and it might interest you what a pastor sees. Of course we can see some folk that aren't happy with us, but never let yourself be sort of swayed by the anger of Mabel McClutchbutt over there in the corner, or Albert McClutchbutt in the front row. Never let yourself be swayed by angry people. So when I used to look out, of course I saw there was angry people, but I just ignored them. I was looking for people who were there hungry to hear a word from the Lord that would just sustain them in the difficult business of living. And that's why I was preaching. Not for popularity, not to avoid anger, but just to try and relay the love and the truth of God to people, ordinary people, facing ordinary life, just to help them to be disciples of Jesus. So that's the second temptation, just to almost sacrifice faithfulness to God or His Word or His calling just for the sake of popularity. What's the third temptation? It's really just the very crass one of the trappings of success of this world and money and so on. I've had folk over the course of my ministry who have been generous to me financially, and some of them have been very faithful, and it's been out of no desire anything other than to bless me and to bless my family and so on and so forth. And I'm very grateful to God for that. But it's also easy to meet someone who has strings attached to their favour and to almost be in their pocket. You may feel that it's very unlikely that that would ever happen to you, that somebody with means would somehow even think of giving to you. But if it does happen, make sure there's no strings attached, that it is coming from somebody who simply wants to bless you, and it's not coming at any price or cost to your faithfulness to the call of God. So there's some thoughts for you to think about the temptation stories in the light of temptations that we face in ministry. Faithfulness to God doesn't mean there'll be no times of lack or need or suffering. Faithfulness to God doesn't mean we'll be universally popular, and we must never make that our aim. And faithfulness to God means that, if riches increase, don't set your heart upon them. But also if there's the offer of riches, make sure you think very carefully and inquire of God whether it's all right to receive a gift from whatever hand may be offering it. Just make sure you inquire of God. Is this a good hand with goodwill? Or should I reject what actually I could do with accepting? May God bless you as you seek to be faithful and true to the call of the Father who loves you upon your life. Bye for now.